epoch in entrepreneurial history. And dare I say, this is probably the most important thing that anybody can learn. And everybody else is just straight up ostrich burying their head in the sand, y'all. Like, now's the time. Imagine being able to go back to 2004 and messing around with Google. You know what I mean? Like, that's where we are. We're there right now. And it used to be that you could just go to the bottom of your website and put a bunch of keywords and you would rank. We have some similar opportunities in LLMs. I wouldn't recommend doing that, by the way, because I think you get penalized long term. But the point stands that now is the time. Now's the time. So for those of you that are watching live or listening, I applaud you. I'm going to take the two questions we have and we'll dive into the presentation. Kurt, you're up.
So to me, the bigger elephant in the room coming up soon is when your agent or my agent goes out and shops for me or
Hmm.
does my research for me, which is what we're all trying to get to. So what so we have I think about being sales qualified. Hi, go find me the best book for illustrated book for children about grief.
Yeah.
Okay, under the age of 6. Okay, so I think about these entities that I have to have, but ultimately down the road, it's like since search doesn't necessarily count, and since the agent will be able to go out and buy for me, right? Unless I ask it to deliver a list. So I have to think about, I think ultimately from that point of view. So right now I'm playing with authors, and it's like, what the entities that author needs to be that recommended book. But thinking ahead of this all the time, maybe I'm wrong. That's why I'm spitting this out. But I have to, I mean, a recommendation is the start where we are now, but very soon it'll be the purchase, right? Or go find me the three best X and
Hmm.
bring them back to me to make my final decision. But then soon it'll be buying for us. And so that change isn't keyword driven, right? It's these outside relationships, the recommendation in Reddit, the explanation, a list comparison I've got on my own site, but soon a comparison outside. So as my mindset just keeps going that direction because that's where I think it
Hmm.
will be very soon. That's what Etsy's done. That's what some of the others are doing. And in trying to explain that to people like a librarian or like to authors, there's a new librarian in town, right? The way you get distributed for that librarian to recommend you, you have to think about it and you have to build these entities so they talk to each other that way, right? And if you don't build the entities, but essentially you're building a friend to a friend, a sales recommendation, right? You know, why should I do that? What did they represent? Like a book, what do you
Hmm.
represent? How is yours different from someone else's, right? What is the genre you're in? All those various details. But when I think about them from a commerce point of view, sometimes for me it's a little bit easier. But Julian, am I lost?
Well, yeah, yeah, you're right. The thing will in the future will be that they will be looking for signals, and that's what they are doing right now. They might be getting more sophisticated in the future. We have seen recently that ChatGPT added a new line of code that was called entity, like specifically an entity, and maybe that's because they are no longer going for Google search. They were kind of kicked out of that with a parameter or anything like that. So maybe they are looking for different ways to find those recommendations, and that's a research in progress. But yeah, I think the key takeaway here will be like what is better is buzz or silence. Is the more you talk about the things that you offer in the places that matter, um, related to the questions that people that look for things like the things that you offer, that's the upside. That's the thing that you are essentially selling. So you are offering a bigger coverage of what people might be asking about your product or service, and that's kind of the need that people might have. Like I see this process is no longer, again, to Kasim's point, we are no longer just building a website, just a little um, entry in a thing. We are rather like going in a three-dimensional space. We are building a thing that is tangible, that has weight, that has volume, and that all of the things that you help build that entity up is going to matter in terms of visibility and value and authority. So yeah, I think that's the name of the game, is increasing that.
Julian said something that I think is really, really important to think about, and it's content in relation to the person who might be buying. Up until this point, and everybody thinks this isn't true, and I would challenge that with the petulance of an angry, spoiled child. Everybody thinks that, oh, we create content for the customer. You don't. Nobody does. If you're writing about a grill, let's say, because I just bought a Traeger grill, you're writing about the features of the grill and how the grill works and what you can cook on the grill and blah, 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 blah. We don't really write for the customer because there's been no mechanism that filters for the customer up until this point. The customers had to filter for themselves. So the customer knows what they can afford, where they are from a skill level as far as the grill is concerned, how much room they have, what type of grill. Like the customer is the filtration mechanism pre-AI. So we've never actually written for the customer. We've written so the customer can self-select. What Kurt asked and then what Julian said, and I think this is the thing that really just blows my mind. You have to create content for machine selection. Oh my God. You know what I mean? Like, holy shit. That's just an entirely different way of thinking. It's such an extraordinarily different approach. And here's what's interesting, Kurt, is, and I'm not challenging what you're saying. I'm double clicking on it and maybe ratcheting the timetable forward. I don't think it's coming. I think it's come. Here's why I say that. Every time I go to ChatGPT and I ask for a recommendation, I'm shopping for a new car right now. I want to buy a homestead. I want to farm in the Northeast. I have specific needs. I need a third row, blah, 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 blah. As ChatGPT, I'm like, hey, I need a car. It said, go buy a Toyota 4Runner. And I was like, dude, that's just, no, I'm not going to do that. And then I went and I did all my research and I came back and I was like, wow, really is the 4Runner. I asked for a device for my kids because I wanted my kids to learn AI, learn to build personal brands. It said, go get a Chromebook. And I was like, I wanted a tablet. Went and did my own research, came back and realized, nope, it was right about the Chromebook. 100 times out of 100 so far, when I ask for a recommendation, I get the right recommendation, which means the purchase decision is already there. The only thing missing is the mechanism. And I think that when I look at the state of, you mentioned commerce. The way that commerce is structured right now is such that you can gamify the system. And I think that the LLM kills that. I actually think there's an integrity to the authority that's being applied that we're not used to. I mean, back in the day, and I'm one of the evil marketers that used to do this, you really could cheat. You really could win even though you weren't the best product or the greatest authority or had the best answers. And now we're moving into a new ecosystem where, you know, that's going to get harder and harder to do. Not that anybody wants to cheat, but it does kind of narrow your market. Where are you really an authority and where do you really apply to the customer? So anyway, that was a bit of a soapbox. Forgive me. That was a good question, Kurt. Good answer, Julian.
Mhm.
Susan, you're last on the questions and then we're going to go to the presentation. You're muted. So there we go. We got
Yeah.
you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
We've got you.
Um, I don't really have a question, but when you were talking about the defining variants on a term and thing, putting one on one page and one on another, and um, I a few days ago I took that GPT that Perry gave us for content creation,
Hmm.
and I asked it to create a document for me, and it said on what, and I said AEO. And so it gave me a long outline and wrote the whole article and then said, here are some other things I could give you. And one was an AEO implementation guide. And that was and a checklist also. And that specifically said, stick to one term, be very consistent. If you're going to talk about AEO, then always refer to AEO. Don't switch it up and say answer engine some of the time and AEO other times. it said if you're using an acronym, you can, the first time you can define what it is, but then after that, stick to the same thing all the way through. So, I mean, it's Chat GPT's opinion, but I just thought I'd share that because that seemed to be what it was looking for. So,
Yeah, that's interesting. And the thing that I'll say is I wouldn't trust ChatGPT further than I can throw it. It's a confirmation bias engine. And the fact that the GPT started with something Perry gave you is already a red flag. You can't trust anything, Perry. I'm just kidding. For those of you that don't know, Perry Belcher is my business partner, one of my best friends, and one of the smartest guys in the whole wide world. But it's funny, Susan, Julie and I joke about this all the time because I go back to not just ChatGPT, but ChatGPT, Claude Perplexity regularly, and I tease it. I'm like, tell me how to game you. Like, how do I get you to say what I want you to say, and how do I get you to recommend the people I want you to recommend? And what's funny is it will talk to you about it. It'll be like, all right, here we go, and it'll give you tips and tricks, but the tips and tricks don't necessarily match with the data. So the thing that we do and Julian's recommendations are all based off of, we have a 4-person data team that does nothing but study how LLM sources citations. And if we're seeing citations, we reverse engineer why, which is also a flawed model, by the way, because confirmation bias is inbuilt into our data.
right.
You know, my favorite analogy is the World War II bombers. Have y'all heard this story?
No.
It's my favorite data story of all time. Um, they would send bombers out in World War II, and the bombers would come back riddled with bullets. And so they would reinforce the bombers where they saw the bullets because they're like, we have to protect our bombers. And it took way too long for someone to go, you know what? We're only looking at the bombers coming back. The bombers that got shot down, we don't get to see where those bullets are. And that's obviously where the vulnerability is. And so it was just, all we're looking at when we're looking at citation data, we're looking at the bombers that made it back. We don't know for the ones that got shot down. And I think one of the most important things which Julian identified is 90, it might be in excess of this, Julian, but it's at least 90% of all citations have schema validated schema. And of the 10% that don't, they're websites that are so important that the LLMs just seem to be forcing the computing power to read them. Only 12% of the websites on the planet have schema validated schema. That means that 88% of all websites aren't even really being considered. And so you think to yourself, oh, I'll just go do schema and I'll win AEO. Sure, for now. But as soon as they crack the computing power problem, meaning LLMs don't have to play economy compute, schema goes away. And we 10x, literally 10x, the data repository available to LLMs, which is going to massively shuffle who gets a citation and who doesn't. And schema no longer becomes something that people like us can go sell as an agency service. And so things like that are going to be really interesting to follow.
You
What do you
know,
think the
the
timeline is for that? Heather,
other
go
thing with
watch
what
and
you're
listen.
saying is I wrote a list of questions that I want to follow up with it, you know, like how did you choose this and how did you make this decision? And but it was getting late, so I'm gonna have to come back to that. But I'll try the pushing it too, like you're saying, and
Yeah,
see
ChatGPT is fun to
break
interrogate
holes
for
in
that
its own
reason.
argument, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Great question, Susan. Thank you for that. Heather asks, what's the timeline for this? If I knew, I'd be a trillionaire. The people that I pay attention to, it's Peter Diamandis, his podcast. He produces, I think about 2 episodes a week. He has 3 other people, 2 consistently, and then usually a guest. He's had Ahmad Mustak on, and this is one of the things they talk about more than any other. Is effectively the event horizon. Like, when do we hit AGI? When is the power issue solved? I would go watch the last 6 podcasts they produced, like your life depends on it, and or at least go get the AI summary from YouTube, because that'll catch you all the way up. If you go watch the last 6 podcasts that Peter produced, that kind of catches you up as far as the State of the Union. Um, Let me just go find that link so I can get to it, and then we'll jump into. Hey, Eric's here. What's up, buddy? Long time no see from you. Peter Diamandis. So he's got a podcast called Moonshot, which is a great name considering we never actually went to the moon. Here we go. There you guys go. Uh, go to, I'm just going to share my screen. Go to uh, the podcast and then just go to the latest. And I would watch, I mean, the cost of AI going to zero is what we were talking about just now. Um, but I would at least watch from there. And they're not, it's not an insignificant time commitment, but it really is some of the smartest people in the whole wide world. He had Naveen Jain on, who's a literal billionaire. He had Ahmad Mustaq on. I think Ahmad Mustaq is the smartest guy in the AI. I obsess over about 30 thought leaders, but Ahmad Mustaq wrote a book called The Last Economy that I think is the most important thing I've read in the 21st century. Um, and that's the paradigm through which we should be viewing all of this. And Ahmad's core thesis, or one of his core theses, I don't know, I'm a dropout, is we have no economic model for the end of scarcity. Humanity does not know how to attend to the end of scarcity. We don't because the end of scarcity, you produce things that are still of value, but don't cost anything. And we don't know how to deal with that. And it's going to be really hard. But it'll also potentially be the best and most important thing that happens for humanity. So, anyways, let's dive into the presentation. I'm going to grill Julian. If you have questions and they're quick, drop them into chat, and I'll try to include them in my questions. If we have time at the end, we'll open up the forum again. We're going to be talking about indexability. Isn't that the sexiest topic you've ever heard? Isn't everybody so excited? That's the thing about this. It's not easy, y'all. Like if it were easy, you know what I mean? Go play Minecraft. Um, so indexability is maybe the most important thing that you can learn at the moment. I actually have a feeling that the LLMs are going to solve this problem for us on a long enough timeline, but we don't know when that timeline is. So this is the needle mover. So Julian, talk to us about what this is, what it means, and why we're talking about it.
Sure. Yeah, this is kind of the second step into indexability. The first one was opening the gates, pretty much. So if you don't have your website properly accessed by bots, crawlers, and AI agents, will go back and check the call recording for the last call because that's really important. The second step to that will be to understand meaning, how machines understand meaning, and how you can translate your business, like your whole business, hopefully, for AI retrieval, for AI understanding. Um, that's what this is, why this is called foundations of relevance. That's how you signal relevance. If you are only talking about your product, there's like a 99% of people that are not aware of it, so how they could kind of get a sense of like the thing that you have worked so hard for is even relevant to them if you don't cover these topics in certain ways that they are looking for. So this is the second most important thing after opening the gates for AI.
The word semantic is going to be the one that we use the most in this community and in our agency. Semantic index and semantic strategy, and it's interesting because it gets obnoxiously overused, but it's also maybe critical at this point. Who's that guy who we like? Core something. We steal all of his shit and pretend it's ours.
Kurai,
Kurai.
Kurai, Koray Gubur took back. So this guy he's got an interesting story. He was kind of playing with PBNs back in the day. So when in the keyword stuffing times, people well created this private blog networks, and they just gamed Google all day, and they just went nuclear on them. So he had to find another way, and he started reading the patents.
Mm.
So that's where he figured out the new ways, and also the Google leak on 2024. That's something that changed pretty much the whole game, and he's the one that is kind of I feel like at the vanguard of this whole thing. How machines are currently retrieving information. How do they read? What is important? Terms like cost of retrieval and anything that might not matter when AI gets cheaper and cheaper. So, but yeah, that's the way that we are addressing the content thing inside of our website and how we can optimize for that.
So
So
explain the strings to things. That's great rhyming, by the way. Uh,
Yeah.
strings is SEO and things is AEO. Is that more or less?
Exactly, exactly. A string is it could be a couple of words that in the past, if you have even one letter wrong, you wouldn't get any result because it wouldn't match the index. It wouldn't match the little folder inside of Google's index in the past. Right now, you are able to write some weird things and it will get it. I saw recently an interesting slide deck presentation that Google did which was like 170 ways in which people spell Britney Spears. So it was all of the variations in which Google was able to catch that typo was meant to be Britney Spears. So that's
Dude, I
the
didn't know
that
people still spelled Britney Spears. Like, is she still relevant enough
exactly.
for us to have this study?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so that's kind of the point. So instead of relying on matching just words, they rely on other different types of data, like the user data, uh, ChatGPT as well, more so than Google because you are not typing out your problems to Google, you can only fit so long. So ChatGPT is the new like frontier of that. You are able to enter hundreds of words and get answers back, but you are training their models. You are customizing their answers in a sense. So that's how they understand what we want in a sense. They get richer data from the user that they can then use to match what they mean.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that goes back to Kurt's original comment. We don't spend enough time talking about this. We keep talking about the content and, the universe, but we're not talking about the searcher, which is a universe unto themselves, right? It's kind of like
Mm,
this three-dimensional matching that happens.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, and what is an entity, which is the most talked about thing right now, and the one that you guys should just um, really really understand as a concept and as a thing that you use every day when working with AEO is something that is properly defined. Is something that is that you as a person obviously understand because you have a context in your head. You have a past and a future, and you have a profession and everything that makes that word have a meaning. But machines don't have that. Machines have to make sense of things in a different way, and they do that by relationships. So if they are fed the word apple, but you don't you put the word tree next to it, it will find the fruit. And if you put the word apple and you put jobs next to it, it will find the company. Because that relationship is what they are trained on and are able to find meaning. Uh, and the individual thing, they understand the individual thing through that level of relationships, and we get to build that.
Dude, so I
Uh,
still don't understand. I'm gonna be the dumb one.
yeah.
Because you and I went back and forth on entities. Um, we're building an AEO agency, right? So we're gonna build a website for our AEO agency. So let's say our AEO agency is called AEO agency because I'm not
Hmm.
creative. And we now we need to write entities. We need to write a website that defines the entities. And so the AEO agency is an entity. So there would be an about the AEO agency page. Julian is an entity because Julian owns the AEO agency. So there would be a Julian page. Then there would be schema that would refer to the relationship between those entities. And then there would be all the services that we offer because each one of those services is an entity. And and then those services would be related to the company, live underneath the company, but then also maybe live tangential to you because you're the one executing on these services potentially, or at least in this. Do I have that right? Like every single one of those is an entity.
Exactly. All of the different things that an alien will have to understand in order for you to have a conversation on. I say that is an alien because AI doesn't have eyes, it doesn't have the experiences that you have. So exactly the things that you are mentioning, that's why schema is so important because schema is like a vocabulary for machines. So if you put a property which is person, they will understand that you are talking about a human that has certain properties inside of them. So you are able to define what are the picture of of this person, and on top of that, you are able to define what this person, how this person is related to the page that you are visiting, or what this person knows about, or what this person has studied and everything like that. So, well, it's a limited work compared to what we know about people and everything, but it's the same. It's the same logic. It's a hierarchical logic in between types and properties. So, a type is a different, a local business, a person, an organization, and a blog post. All of them are types, and they have underlying properties that you can describe. So that's
It's
kind of
hard because this content really, I don't know a business that actually has this content right now that exists. So everybody has to go and create new entity content for the most part, or at least update their content to be entity based.
yeah, this is kind of the most advanced way because you are absolutely targeting entities and almost nothing else. Like, I really don't really trying to appeal for humans
Mm.
in a sense. So and I know that Cord might be asking this because he's a copywriter and he focuses on a lot on what the reader should think about. But this is a new approach, so hopefully we are able to find a middle point on that. That is interesting. So this is the way that I was able to illustrate what an entity is. In the past, you will slap a name on a website and that will be it. You are a marketing expert just because you said so. But right now, you need to really create the relationships. And a good example of that is a LinkedIn profile. You get photos, you get your name, you get your experience, you get your expertise, you get the company that you're working for, and that in on itself is what we know as a knowledge graph or a graphic of relationships that you get to know that this Sarah Jenkins is a unique person because it had this certain amount of relationships. There's the case that there's another Sarah Jenkins working in the same company, but that in a different department,
Mm.
or a different age, or a different anything. That's how machines are able to tell you apart from anyone else. So if you are only putting your name out without properly defining any other relationships, well, that's where machines get confused about you. I was about to stop you when you were asking those questions because the
Because
next
the
slide
slides were
was,
coming.
yeah, the next slide has the answer. This is Marta van Berkel. She's from Schema App. Is really advanced. Like they have 10 years on enterprise health businesses, like managing schema in a way, and that's how she starts the presentation. She says that she has a job title which is the CEO, and she's also the founder of Schema App. She's got a nationality. She's Canadian. She was an alumni of Queens or whatever. But if we want to go beyond that, she owned a car that was part of the recording of, I don't know the movie, but it was directed by Kevin Bacon. So she was related to Kevin Bacon in a sense. That's the way that she introduced the concept of a knowledge graph. The thing that you are seeing there is a properly defined entity because it's got many nodes, it's got many details about it, and you are able to define that in the different aspects that you specify this connection, these relationships. And this is the thing that you get to do on your website. You get to define your key entities, your people, your products, um, your external profiles, the topics that you talk about, many, many, many things. So but yeah, that's going back to your answer. There's an interesting thing here that I know that this graph is kind of old, but there's even like on the most controlled tests, there's a rate of hallucinations. So AI is never perfect, and by default, it goes to the average because it gathers a sample of sources. So if from all the sources they find the consensus, what they talk about in common, so that's how they decide what answers to provide. Specifically in terms of your website, talking about when AI is trying to go for the information, the thing that we are developing here today, I like to use the metaphor of AI being like a proactive chef. The user requests something really specific. So I need this, I want this, and AI just goes there and prepare it, no matter like what is available. So that's why I cite the illustration of the hallucination, because what I'm talking about in the next slide. This is another of the one of the first graphs that we developed to try to explain how AI goes and finds answers. So it will go, you will enter a NLP query, which is a fancy version to say a question, and that goes through an LLM that translates that to a keyword that goes into some kind of web search or an index source that they got, and you will get certain amount of sources. That's the S1, S2, and S3 numbers there. So if AI goes there and don't have what we saw in the last call, which is the access to the source. I'm talking about jars because we are talking about cooking, because the lid is locked, or the label is not clear. So that's the point where the word is important, Susan, that you were talking about. Like if you're talking about AEO and that's the thing that you want to talk about, that's your label. So you have to look at the first label, has to be relevant, and then in the content you get to play with other related words. That's kind of the approach that I would go about that. So that's the logic. If the thing is not easily accessible and the labels are not clear, you will be skipped right then and there. But that's not enough, and that's what we are talking about today. If it gets to the content, but is not the right amount of data, or you are not answering the question, it will go through the next source and complete the answer. That's the hallucination phase that I talk about. So if you don't have pricing and people request pricing, there's a chance that AI will give you a pricing even if it is the wrong one. So this is really important.
Can I pause you there, Julian?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm just saying this is an evil marketer to everybody on the call. This was a problem we had at Solutions 8 for years and years and years. The pricing example is the best example, but there's a billion of them. Companies didn't want to provide pricing because they wanted the lead and they wanted to get them on the call. And they're like, you don't understand. Once they're on the call, we'll be able to show them the value and we can show them why they can come with us, and then we'll be able to close them. And for the longest time, I would tell them, look, if you don't provide pricing, you're not going to get the lead in the first place. So allow them to self-select it, and then it's our job to articulate the value benchmarked against the price. And I always lost that, always lost it. There's no chance. There's no choice now. Because to the point that Julian's making, and I see this happening over and over and over again. This just happened with, the hell is that software when he was StreamYard? I was trying to figure out, maybe it wasn't StreamYard, maybe it was the LMS that we're talking about. But I was like, I went and the pricing was opaque. It was like starts at this. And I'm like, and then I went to ChatGPT and I asked it how much it is, and then it gave me the real price. I don't know if that's real or not, but that's what I think the real price is of this SaaS product. And I made my decision of whether or not to pursue it based off of ChatGPT's response. And it's not just about pricing. It's also about process or product or ingredients or insert anything here. If you think you have secret sauce that you want to hold back, assume that the LLM is going to intuit that secret sauce on your behalf if you don't provide it. So everybody in every industry is going to find themselves in a race to transparency. And the first real competitor that decides, I'm going to give up the whole game, is going to be the one that wins. And everybody else is going to be at their mercy, because the LLMs are going to use that information to intuit how it is that you happen to be doing your thing. So this whole secret sauce behind the thing, the gate, the iron curtain, none of that exists anymore, for better or for worse. Sorry, Julian, keep going. But I appreciated that point.
Yeah, those are really interesting insights. So yeah, now this idea we mentioned last time, that in the past in search days, the website was the goal, was the destination, but now is more of a source. Like AI is not going to uh, like users wouldn't want to go there even. Like that's just basic human behavior. If we are able to get the thing from here, why would I go there? So you should be able to provide that level of information, of detail, of like really address the questions that they might have. That's on the better. That's how it will work from now on. I anticipate. Again, if I don't get pricing, I will just look for the next person that will give it to me. Um, so this is the way that we solve for that. Now the site is the source of the information, of the facts. And interesting points here will be topical authority, as we discussed, is not enough that you write one good post. Like the new approach is that you have a full set of content that builds on a topic level. So you have to go in depth, a little bit broad, but not too much to touch another topics. That's what topical authority is. If you are the person talking about the things that you are offering in the best way possible, you are going up in relevance. Well, semantic trust, that means, well, that you have to go like the thing that I just said, like you have to you have to show that you know what you're talking about in terms of the different levels of information. So if you cover not only one question in your content, but you predict or you study or you for whatever reason you find what is the next question and you answer that in the content, that's going to get the user closer to you. Hopefully, we'll get only a page that will turn somebody from absolutely ignorant to a paid customer, but that's not how it works. But having those little steps considered inside of one type of page will be really useful to kind of keep the user more and have it find the most information in there. So yeah, you need to own that entity that you're talking about. That's the key takeaway.
Can I ask a question about this, Julian? So,
Sure.
topical authority using content spanning the semantic spectrum. Is that content on the website? Is this really robust sitemaps and blogs, or is this the website referencing other content on, this is my YouTube, this is my Wikipedia, this is my. What is that? How would you execute on this tactically?
Well, knowing from what we found on research for the answer budget, we noticed that even though they search for websites, they have a like a 50% of citations going through other validated sites like social posts, review sites, communities, and everything like that. So I wouldn't put all of my eggs into one basket, and that only can strengthen your entity like that. So if you could have the best website, but if you don't have external profiles that validate that brand, that you are the same thing, you could have a confusion because you could find another Julian Lopez in Facebook that is not me, there's a chance that it will pull information out of that just because I haven't covered that front, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
But it sounds like you still want the content to be on the site. So the site is still something of a single source of truth for all of your core. So like I own a staffing agency called Pareto Talent. And if I were doing an EO for Pareto, which I should, Pareto would have an all-inclusive library and repository of content and then link to supplemental sources, but I wouldn't rely on those supplemental sources for core pieces of content.
Yeah, exactly. You want to be the owner of that. You want to be referenced by that.
Okay. I got to
Exactly.
turn the reins over to you, dude, because I have another call.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you letting me bogart the mic again. And there's still more slides to go over if you guys want to go long. But I'm gonna
Well,
hop. William, you did a great job, buddy.
awesome, awesome. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Thank you, Kasim. Okay, guys. So well, yeah, this one run too long, but I just can't stop because we are just getting into the meat of it. I promise that like this is such an important thing that I will I will have to create a complete course around that. So the recording is going to be available for people that want to jump out or have to. So I will make sure to share that tomorrow with everyone. But yeah, you guys see my screen, right? So this is the thing. This is the way that you do the entity optimization on your website. So it used to be the case that you will go for a broad keyword at the top and try to develop that like whatever in whatever form that you found. Um, so this is a really defined 1, 2, 3 step process that you can follow to make sure that you are covering an entity from all possible angles in a way that that matters for search engines and AI, because this works kind of on both ends. That's optimized for machine readability and retrieval. So there's 10 data points that you need to cover inside of your content to be considered as a as an authority for that specific topic. But again, it's not only one page. You have to build several other pages inside your website to complete this profile as deep as possible. So the first is the thing is the one thing that you are offering in your website, is the goal that your customers are looking to get, is the thing that is going to solve the problem. So this will be the primary entity. Um, so for example, sourdough bread for this example. I will do a longer example after. Um, then goes the category. So the broad topic that used to be kind of the keyword that you will target, like a broad category that you will expect to have a lot of people searching for it. This is the parent entity. So, well, what family does it belong to? So if we're talking about sourdough bread, it will belong to the fermented foods category. Next up are the types, so the things underneath the thing that we are offering, which are variations of this thing. So San Francisco style or whole wheat sourdough bread again. So these are the three uh, things at the top, but there's more. So there comes the attributes. So things that are measurable about this thing. So there's hydration levels, baking temperature, fermentation time. So those things that you can measure, define, quantify about the main entity. The fifth element is the pain or the problems that are tied to that thing. So for this example, is flat loaf when the bread doesn't grow, or gummy texture when it's too humid, I guess. Then there's the use cases of that entity. So how it is used. It is used for sandwiches, toast, or bread balls. Those are the three like elements that are tied to that entity. And there's a couple of more. So there's alternatives too. So what else uh, can they use? So it can use different type of yeast or soda bread, some things that are related options, but maybe are not the principal thing that you will use or you will assume. Also, there's the difference, so comparisons, things that you can put alongside to find differences. So sourdough versus ciabatta, a different type of bread. Um, and the risks. The risks are the other one things that are kind of important for you to outline because you are covering the topic. If you go back and see, you are pretty much doing an encyclopedic description of the entity, and that's how you are owning that entity for yourself. So the risks are limitations or downsides, time consuming or requires maintenance. There's another one, which is location specific modifiers. So if the location matters, so base bakery in Seattle, I would say that for the location modifier will be, I don't know, altitude or anything, things that change the timing of the bread preparation or something like that. So those are the key elements that you should cover in one content in order for you to be considered as an authority for that entity. So you will talk about the entity, you will talk about the top category, where it belongs to, you will talk about different types of that entity. You will talk about the attributes of that entity. You will talk about the pain or the problems that this entity are related to. What applications do they have? What alternatives are to these entities? What are ways to compare them? What are the difference between other things? Um, and risks. Those are the high level things that you get to define, that you get to put inside of your content, and that way you are covering most of the high level questions that people might have about the specifics of the thing that you offer. So right now I'm going through one example that I think will be really useful for us. This is herbal supplements, but this is a simulated brand. Uh, and this is how it goes. So uh, it's natural health supplement brand. The niche is organic herbal supplements for stress relief and immunity boosts. The traditional keyword focus, so the thing that we will try to aim for will be best organic supplements for stress, but that leaves a lot of things out of that. So in the past, you will just spam organic supplements and stress relief throughout your content and hope that you will consider to be the answer for that. But now we are going to be breaking it down in the way that I just show you. So if we are breaking it down, we will find that the primary entity is organic herbal supplements. The category it belongs is dietary supplements or natural health products, any one of these. The types are, well, you can find ashwagandha, rhodiola, holy basil, turmeric inside of that entity. Those are the same entity. So there's organic herbal supplements of these types. Um, Next up are the attributes. So what attributes you can add to this entity to define that properly. So is there organic certification? Are they non-GMO? Are they vegan? What the dosage is? What is the extraction method? And so on and so forth. Like any one of the entities that you guys are working with will have a longer list of attributes and as well as problems. So for the problems of this herbal supplements are chronic stress, anxiety, and immune system weakness. The applications use case are for managing daily stress, for boosting immunity and improving sleep, for example. There's others, of course. So this is just a short description of what you can develop yourself for your own businesses. The alternatives, well, alternatives to herbal supplements are synthetic supplements, are prescription medication for anxiety that might work for stress, as we are discussing. What are the differences? So in here you get to pick whichever you want to compare that is relevant to the content that you're writing. So ashwagandha versus rhodiola, organic versus non-organic supplements. And the last step, which is one of the most important, are the risks. So possible medication interactions and allergy warnings. This is really the most important one if you are in this specific vertical, just because um, AI is really careful about doing recommendations on things that might impact your health or your financials mostly. So that's where you need to make sure that all of their content is properly written to cover these things and to outline the risks tied to them. So that's the way that I will advise you guys to start thinking from now on in the ways that you will build your content, because we are rather than appealing to an user that is hopefully reading through and purchasing it, we are doing these other signals that are really important, that we are the ones that know more than anyone else about this topic that we are talking about here. There's the location modifier, but well, for herbal supplements, there's a chance that this type of business is an e-commerce or have a worldwide audience. But still, there could be things that you might talk about inside your content if there's regulations, specific regulations in the places that you are looking to sell. So this is how the content should look like, for example. So it will be, this is not a specific post, but rather um, a really broad explanation as to what will go in each part. So uh, the starting point will be defining the organic herbal supplements and what are their properties. So why are they a key to health boosting properties in the body, and what place do they occupy inside the dietary supplement category. Then you will go and explain specifically about the broad category. You will explain about the natural supplements and what regulatory landscape there is. So as you can see, we are covering the individual element, and then we can go in a different place. That's where we get to be um, a little bit more flexible depending on the goal of that specific topic. The child entities, so we get to go inside of that. So we have covered the category, and then we can explain different types of this entity. So we will talk about ashwagandha or rhodiola rosea, and we will talk about the difference, benefits, and scientific backing. Other things will be the key attributes of the main entity, organic certification, importance, extraction methods, or anything that we will consider to be most important. We will talk about the problems that might be tied to that specific herbal supplement that we are looking to talk about there. What are their properties and how they work, use cases and dosage. This is the part where we get to talk about the quantifiable elements. Because if you don't talk about that, and AI is looking for that specific type of information, and it will see two sources, it will default for the one that knows the numbers, because that's the thing that the user is looking for. So that's why having quantifiable information is important. Then you can go about developing the alternatives or comparisons to that to cover that specific part. If you are selling them, of course, you are going to be talking about the benefits in comparison to these other things. The risk factors. So what are the things that might go wrong that you know and that you have to disclose, obviously, if you are talking about a health-related product, and if there's any localized considerations. So how or where this supplement is available, and what is the legal status if somebody else wants to buy it from a specific location. That's what I will do on the specific of this product. So if you go back and search and see, these elements are really outlined, are really clear for me. I hope that is clear for you. I have added a guide, a really specific guide that um, goes about this specific process that you can just follow. Again, it goes a little bit more in depth into some other examples that we might get. There's two other examples that might be interesting for you. In this same structure of content, so you guys get a better idea and are able to follow this process for your own use case. It will be really useful for you, even as just as an exercise to do it on any type of business, just to get the idea really nailed inside of your head. We are instead of hoping to just appear as a result just by mentioning one set of words, we want to cover a topic in as much detail as possible. And this is the 9-step process, the 10-step process to get there that you guys can follow today and start thinking about. That's how machines validate your authority in certain topics, and that's the level that you want to get to when you are developing content. So of course, again, this has to be a longer course. This has to be a more in-depth class that we can go through and maybe run some examples. There's approaches to it, but at a high level, this is really what is important when building content now for machines. Yes, Heather.
That's great. Thanks. I just wanted to ask, I'm an SEO and AEO content specialist, and I've noticed that we've had a lot of success with particular structures of this content. And this leads towards the system of content clusters with a pillar page in the middle. So a pillar page being that it could be the category page or it could be the thing that's dedicated to it. And what it really wants is like just to put it maybe in different words and then to get your feedback about this. I feel like they want really in-depth content on one page. It really acts like an in-depth guide. And it's a strong FAQ section. There is a comparison grid. So it is all of this content, but I have found that it had incredible success by putting that content into certain formats. And I'm just wondering if the guide that you're going to provide us talks about some of those formats. And then each of those sections and formats has some fun things that we can do with schema, with the entities list, with the same as, with is similar to, like there are all of these schema codes that we use. And I just think it's important to have this contextualized from a on-page standpoint and a schema standpoint. And I just am curious what your feedback is on that and how important it is to have other pages within that content cluster breaking out these individual topics in addition to having them all on one page.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. You are closer to what we have been studying. So what I mentioned, if you want to look for Korai, he's really proposed like the closer version of what Google's patents say about how machines read information and what they measure. So if you it's exactly what you mentioned. These are clusters. These are related pillar pages, but they are based on topics. So he calls it
Yep.
he was the first. He was the first one that mentioned topical maps. Now everyone is talking about topical maps, but the approach is really specific.
Yeah.
So this is one way to look at it. So yeah, you are right. Like the specific formats inside of the content are another level, so another layer. So
Yeah.
right now we are talking about what an entity is and what are the type of things that you can connect to cover that entity. Beyond that is again is the whole map, is how the links are built inside of your site so that everything is properly validated by other pages. That's what
Yeah.
you're also saying, because that's effectively that's the origin of everything.
And
But yeah.
sorry, do you think it's enough? And I'm going to say it's probably not, but just based on our experience and what we've launched and the success that we've had with LLMs and traditional SEO at the same time with these pages. But we're talking about the content on the page. But I feel like we really have to feed it on a granular level to the bots with the schema for now. Would you agree? Or do you feel like it's enough? The content is enough because the bots will read the content?
Well, the bots will be enough in a long enough timeline. That's why schema was created. Schema was created to kind of give a quicker answer about what the content inside of the page is. So you don't have to have the content, the schema pointing to the real content. Is something that lives on top of that. It's like another version of your content page. So the better job that you do at structuring their schema, the better these machines are able to understand it because you are mentioning the entities, you are mentioning the elements on page, you are
Yeah.
mentioning related entities beyond the website and everything like that. So
Yeah.
I think both are important. That's a challenge. I think I will it will be much easier for me to develop the schema when I understand it, of course, because those are less elements, because
Yeah.
you know that you have certain
Yeah.
amount of entities and properties that you just put out inside of a page,
Yeah.
than creating the specifics of the content, that waiting that the content, what the response to that content is. Um, so what I will do, like, and again, this could be a short answer or a longer one. The short
Sure.
answer is yes, of course, develop your content side by side. If you are mentioning an entity and you know that that's the center of the content there, you will prioritize that and develop that in schema, um, rather than other things. But you have to connect that. That's the longer question. Once you have your website, you need or it's of a better use to build a graph inside of the website. That's what Schema
Yep.
app
Yeah.
does. So it's like a way longer pool. That's
Yeah. And that, yep. No, that's great because that is what I'm doing. That's just we're using it. I'm just developing a really sophisticated, like really detailed schema model to go with these pages. But because you didn't mention schema in this presentation, I
yeah.
thought, oh, is it overkill? But I don't think so because we're like killing it with these things. So really exciting. We started a few months ago, but yeah, just wanted to clarify that. And thanks for all the detail.
Yeah, that's awesome. You are going a little bit forward with that, and I hope to get there. But I noticed that in the past when I tried to go faster, well, most people would get lost. So that's why I'm going step by
Yeah,
step
sorry.
now entities, and then we will go to the way to the content structure that you're talking about, because that's the next step. So if
Yeah.
one person is looking for a specific broad question or anything, they expect certain type of content, and that's where you get to formulate that. That depends on the intent, on what the people behind the terms are looking for. That's what you should provide. So yeah, that's on a next step.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Heather. Okay, I don't know who was first, Cord or Adriana.
Go ahead, Adriana.
Okay, a gentleman.
Yeah, yeah. Hi. Thanks, Kurt. I thought you were first, but I definitely need to get this clarified. And thank you, Heather, for what you said. I think that it's definitely you need to do both because we're still in this transition period. There's still going to be well, we need to do both in terms of our structure of the content and also the schema. Definitely schema is that's what LLMs want right now, a really quick way to understand who you are, what you're about, and what you're offering. So that's in my opinion. I've started doing it on my website, and because of that, I also started to restructure my website, not so that it mirrors the schema exactly, because to your I think you were alluding to this, Heather, if you didn't say it clearly, but exactly. But you also have to have the human eyes. Will kind of expect things better. I mean, in a certain way, and schema expects it in its certain way, and it's not necessarily a direct correlation. Here's my example. In my about page, I had a video, and the title above that video was Meet Adriana Vela, right? So it's like a video. It's about me. It's one of those hero videos, and that was it, above the fold. The next section, had more of my stuff. That's where I had the H1. Well, obviously, that's the no for schema. So what I did is that I put my H1, so I just moved it, put my titled, that's nice and succinct as to who I am. in the video next to it. So now it satisfies the schema in the way it wants to see it. So that is that is great. I wanted to make that point. My my question to Julian is there's this 10 points. Well, first of all, why did you have two nines? Because you said it's 10 things, right? And then you're like nine, and then nine, like number nine, number nine, number
Yeah.
nine. You
Yeah,
see,
well, that's how you know that AI didn't do this because I fail at it.
yeah. Well, anyway, so that was just, I was just teasing. But my question really is these 10, points, you were talking about for a topic. And is that something that you would use in designing, topics like, as far as a blog and have obviously the schema that goes with that? Or is it a specific product? Certainly your example is a specific product, when you're talking and becoming the authority for that. But then we're entities too. The individual person, is an entity. So I will want to also follow those 10 things, like make sure I have those covered in my content about me, or me being the entity.
If if
So
if the page, well, I think um this is easily kind of solved if we're if there's a topic, there should be a topical map. It should be an entity description like that. I think, well, a person is an entity as well. We could talk about this specific elements, but that goes to what the specific goal of your website is. So if our goal for our pure vital herbal supplements goal is to sell herbal supplements, that's the entity that you want to talk about the most. That's the entity that you want to cover alongside your content, that you want to create alternatives and different differences between other things. If you are a person, it's much easier, mostly because we are a source of facts. There's the goal when people are searching for a person is mostly to validate some things, to know who they are, and those are true facts. We don't really cover a person like that. So a brand is a different treatment. So
I'm just
yeah.
asking for, as a consultant, I'm sorry to cut you off, and I just want to get to the bottom line. I want to be able, I will be recommending, these approaches. Right, this is an approach, but I wanted to be clear as to, do I recommend this for all the different types of entities, or do I say, you know what, for this one it works better this way, like the about page versus my blog site versus my product pages,
Mhm,
versus my services, pages. So
mhm,
I think what I'll do is I definitely will look at that in more detail. But and really all we're trying to do is create a mind map, right? It's a
mhm.
mind map for
Yeah,
everything that
yeah.
you want.
I think, like, well, of course, not all of the entities that you were looking to define have the same things that are like the focus.
The same elements. Yeah,
Yeah, they
mhm,
don't have to have them, but you have to have most of them,
right,
because you want to be, again, covered. You want to cover the
right.
top the best way that you can.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it's just covering your bases basically.
Exactly, exactly, and I liked your question because you just killed me there. I don't have an answer because people are not topics. Like, if we were to talk about the humans as a topic, uh, related to myself, well, of course, I will talk about the category that I belong to, the types of Julian Lopez that there is, but now it comes to the specifics. So when you search in AI, for how to go from X point to Y point, the answer changes because it knows that it has to show you a map. If you are looking um, for a tutorial on anything, so they are able to understand what you want and they feed you the thing that you need.
Mhm.
So in that way, when we are looking for people, we don't think about people on these levels of analysis. We rather go closer to what is the name, what is the profession, what is his bio page, and that's pretty much the things that you get to find on every personal brand as a baseline. Then it will go beyond that, like what are the books that he has provided, the podcasts that he has appeared on, and other related things that are only pertaining to this person. But if we are looking to talk about people, we will be essentially going through this more like unique things that they have. So name, profession, story, which is the about page, and well the other related things to those. So yeah, that's
Well,
kind of my half-baked
yes.
answer, but yeah.
Yeah. Yes, but not really. And I'm sorry to do it only because for the about people are gonna they'll search who are the top leaders in this space, right? So you do want to have the schema and the elements are different. Like for your about page, it's no longer just your bio. Nobody wants to be reading long bio, especially when you have a lot of experience. So, but LLM is going to look for validated authorities, right? And when they're looking for authorities on a topic, in your schema, in your about page, you want to be able to have, you know, um, references or relations, not just to who else you are in other, like your LinkedIn and all that stuff. That's the same as, but then you have the subject of, and that's when, let's say you've been interviewed, you've been in magazines and things like that. That's the subject of, and then it knows that you've been in other, other entities, and that is, those are the things that matter a lot when you, if you want to be considered an authority by an LLM. Am I correct?
Exactly, but that's because your search intent is different. You're not searching for me. So the way that I
Oh,
will I will approach
oh,
that
yes.
will be
Who is
again.
Adriana Bella? I know they could, because let's say they heard something, or they,
Exactly.
or you're advertising a web class or something else, right? Or some offering, and they'll say, "Who is Adriana Bella?" And then that's
Exactly,
where.
exactly. So I'm talking about like how I will build content about myself, and that's the thing that I will talk about because that's the thing that really matters. When I'm talking about authority, when I'm requesting validation, that's where these other elements play out. So this is an example that I will never get tired of. This is one of the um, of the clients for Jason Barnard, which is a huge inspiration for what we have been doing here. And he does this specific type of website and this specific type of about page. If you go and scroll it, you wouldn't see nothing like different. But if you go and really search for this word, this keyword, which is a weird word, um, the client requested to be recognized as Jacron because that's how his friends call him. And if you go and break down the content, you get to see that almost every sentence have the subject. That's because that's the way that you link your entity to a fact. You have to have this sequence: subject, action, and complement. So Jcron is an investor. Jcron held executive leadership. Jcron developed. That's how machines are able to understand because they need that. They need the facts feed on these ways. So this is a really a contrarian way that you will build your bio page because you will default by mentioning your name in the title, and then you can just write down whatever you want. But this is a machine optimized thing because they will read each passage individually. So that's how they are able to just pick the information that they want and tie that to the fact that is next to it. This is an interesting thing that I found out recently. And by having
That's
the Jonathan Cronsten side just be along with with his nickname of sorts, that's how they get to kind of relate themselves to that word and get that as
yeah,
a result. The Acron thing.
yeah. So that's
Um,
brand representation, right?
exactly. That's how you define yourself inside of that. So this is an
Mhm.
interesting thing, but this is not the most interesting thing. Uh, this is it. Are you guys able to see the pop-up? Uh,
Yes.
okay, okay. If you want, sorry, I will close you 1 second. This is the schema that they develop. And it goes back to your point, it goes back to what we have been talking about.
Yeah,
The
subject
same as
of. Yeah.
property has to be as deep as you will want. You should have a lot of validating sources. I don't know exactly where this thing starts and ends, but about okay, this is the symbol. This is the same as property for this thing, and it should end somewhere around here. Subject of. So yeah, these things are okay. I got it. So from here to here. These are the validated profiles, and these are not only profiles that you get to select because there's well Amazon profile. You have written a book, you got one. Crunchbase, you
Mhm.
get to do it. Goodreads, if you got books again. IMDb is an interesting one because you will think that you will have to be an actor to get there, but you can be a podcast guest if the podcast is listed on IMDb. You get to be an actor on that podcast, and that's how these guys manage that, and it's really 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 interesting. um, there's also the Google knowledge graph code. So if you search for your name and you get your result there, there's a chance that you get a code and you can tie that code back to your profile. That's how you build further certainty to machines that you are that specific person. And it comes after that, it comes the subject of. So these are
Mhm.
videos that talk about you or related articles or anything like that. So these are really uh, just a little sliver of things that you can work toward. So um,
That's not a sliver, that's the entire whole pie.
exactly. Exactly. So yeah, this is what I'm really bullish on this approach. This is the thing that I'm following because it's really interesting. It's really focused on machines. So you will get
Mhm.
bored in the middle of this to just to
Yeah.
read J-Cron every time. So yeah, I bet that you could have something related to ask here, or you already forgot.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Kurt.
No, so okay. So now that you've brought this, first question, how did you find that site that you knew Bernard worked on?
Because I we met with him, with Kasim. We have a meeting with him, and he told us kind of his approach and everything. I read his books. I have his lead magnets printed somewhere. So yeah, I've been doing that.
No, I've been studying. I just would love to know if you've got any other examples of his clients' stuff.
Um, yeah, but I don't know. I think this is the most impressive one. But you can go to his company. This is his
No,
company, and there's some feature people here.
okay,
Um,
all right. I've been there and I've done
uh,
that. Cool. Okay.
okay. Yeah, but
Um,
where are they? I I lost them. Yeah, there's supposed to be a testimonial section with these faces. Yeah, these are these ones. Where are they?
okay. So
I don't know if these are the ones.
the the plugin you used was which?
It's the detail extension. So I think this is Jacon.
Okay.
The detailed extension, which when I got it wasn't from Ahrefs, but they bought it. So I will always recommend that because it's too easy. And what essentially what you will do, and for you, Heather, that you are on SEO, you will see that this is the things that matter for a page: title, description, URL. So these things are kind of the way that a machine will read your content. They will first go to the title and a description that might be this one or other one. That's not. I'm not sure that this description is the one that AI is taking. But if your title says anything that is absolutely unrelated to you, there's no chance that you are being cited as a source. So that's kind of the way that everything should be structured. The hierarchies in here are important, and here you get to see the schema without you having to read this ugly interface that I used to. That's that's how I used to check schema, like a caveman.
Yeah,
I
me
used
too.
to, yeah, yeah,
But what's the name of the plugin that you're using?
detailed.
Oh yeah, detail. That's right.
Okay,
I have it
Okay.
noted.
I'll
Okay.
share
Scroll.
that over to you. Yeah, what next question, Corey? I know that you have your notes.
Or not. Okay. So I think you're going to get to it another time. Just letting me see those sites will answer. I think of this like the bot comes. I want to give it an index. Okay. I want it to instantly recognize here's my whole index of all the stuff that you're looking for, and you can choose where the hell you want to go. I mean, isn't that we're thinking that might be an LLMS TXT file or whatever. But I mean, is that the right thinking or not?
Yeah, of course, that's the right logic. Machines don't go and read your content every time. They
Right,
they prioritize. That's why if your title is relevant, they will pick you as a source. They will go then and try to read the content, but they won't go through the whole thing. They will read your headings
right,
first. That's how these things work, and that's why it's important for you to understand heading hierarchy and everything like that. So that's why optimizing those headings to be questions and the first lines in this paragraph to be the exact answer is kind of a best practice that we are seeing. Um, that's because it's cheaper. It's cheaper to retrieve. That's they will go in, don't have to read everything. They will read the heading, and if one heading is relevant, they will go in and read the first thing that they get, and that's how you make it easier for them. I think that's what you're referring to.
right.
Yeah, but
I mean,
that's not on a different file. That's not on a different file. That's not how we have seen that work. We haven't seen any file cited before the page. So right now we are depending on an index that they own or on Google's index or some kind of mixture about that. But it's not the top 10 results. That's what we are sure about.
okay. All right. I'm going to go study some more. Thank you so much.
Awesome, good. Awesome, awesome. Yes, Susan.
Quick question. Am I right that all of those listings, like for podcasts, that those are ranked higher because they're unbiased coming from someone else? Is that correct? As opposed to content that you create yourself, like videos or whatever.
Okay, Susan, that's a great question. For the purposes of my website, I will put podcast there just to inform machines that I'm that person that appear on that show, so I get a bigger presence. That's the only goal. We
Okay.
don't get to rank or change. We are informing better this to machines that we are that person, that we talk about these topics, that we have these different types of information. There's if you search for any specific person, specifically Kasim, you can all go search Kasim. There's a, I don't know, a 90% chance that one of the sources is a Josh Nelson podcast, and that's funny because I don't know, he's been on 100 or 200 podcasts, but that podcast seems to be the sweet spot. I don't know, it might be the title, it might be the description, it might be something in the transcript, but those things are really important. The thing that you should really have instead of one specific podcast or one a specific thing is to have as much validation as you want. If you want to be an authority, you should get a book. You should appear on a podcast or create your own, because that will increase the places where AI will search for your name, and that will increase the information that they have access to.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, your website is no longer enough. That's the key takeaway for today's call. So yeah, I will make sure to develop this process forward. That's my plan. I wanted to just expand on the entity issue, because I know that with schema are one of the things that we don't um, kind of understand fully, and it's kind of annoying to have these wordings, but still it's an idea that is worth developing, because we are talking about these machines that they think in a different way, and so that the better job that we do at getting closer to what they think and how they think and want to understand our content and everything, that's going to be more and more important, because users are getting farther and farther away from our website. So there's not long uh, um, there's a future not long from here, not far away from here, that we will only have to have an API or an MCP, or just data living somewhere that agents will go in and interact from. That's what ChatGPT is doing right now. They are implementing APIs right inside of the chatbot, so you won't see any interface at all. You just request your thing, see the pricing, request the data, purchase, and you are out. And that's where we are going after. So that's why it's important for you to be the source of the information, and that we understand how machines kind of validate this topical authority and everything around that. So yeah, well, I will share with you right now um, the resource, which is the checklist uh, that will be developed further on further calls. We are going to jump a little bit after that on how this content um, should be breakdown. And I will love your insight, Heather, on the things that work for you. Just because you seem to know, you seem to have had already success, and that's what we want to have as well. We are not owners of the whole truth. We rather would like to help to understand better other perspectives. This thing should be an open source mission to break down how AI works and find recommendations. So any insights that you guys might have and want to share, I'm open, and we get to just work and test new approaches. So muchas gracias, Heather, Adriana, Kurt. Thank you so much, Leonardo. Happy to have you here, Susan.